You're doing that. I mean, you're really paying your dues. And, Kevin and Kerry are obviously, like you said, working close towns, not showing up to shows. So they could have been more understanding at the point, but like you said, they didn't even realize what was going on.
Yeah, of course. And then if you're also on top of that, if you're doing, you know, other recreational things, even less, you know, does that make
Yep.
sense?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, for sure. With Kerry, though, you did get along with him. You said you guys did have a good relationship.
Yeah, yeah, it was different because again, I had a lot in common with him. I was a national powerlifting champion. I was also in bodybuilding before I got into the wrestling. It kind of messed me up once I did get in the wrestling. I wasn't able to do all that, obviously. Kerry was still able to work out because he only had to wrestle a couple of times a week, and it's very different. Anyway, so but we had that kind of the same kind of kind of background, because he was into bodybuilding and all that, and although he didn't, I don't think, compete. He just had a great body, and he truly had a great body. You know.
Oh, yeah, he looked like a Greek god at
Mm-hmm.
one point. Yeah, he was
Mm-hmm.
huge.
Mm-hmm.
When
And
you
yeah,
I was gonna say with him, like you guys got along. Did you hang out with him at all though?
did actually my ex and his um wife were actually pretty good friends, and we used to go over his house. I never went over to Kevin's house. Couldn't tell you where he lived, but I used to go over to Kerry's house quite often. And we hung out. The thing is that we lived very far from each other, so it wasn't something that we did a lot. I was really good friends with Steve Simpson, and obviously I spent a lot of time with Steve. He's still in Dallas today. I didn't go see him this last time I was there, but if somebody, I lived with his family in South Africa, and spent a few months with his dad, and I wrestled for his dad for a couple of years before he actually immigrated to the States. The father, the whole family actually immigrated, and so anyway, so yeah, they were good to me.
What about Mike? Did you have any sort of relationship with Mike Von Erich?
Mike and Chris were always together, and Chris was a lot younger, and I don't know, Mike just kind of kept to himself. I don't think he wanted to be in wrestling at all. I think his father actually pushed. Well, I know for a fact he pushed him, and especially Chris too. Chris had he had no business being in the ring. He was a little guy, and Mike also was pretty thin, and neither one of them wanted to have anything to do with wrestling. But you do what your father, he pushes you to do it, and he was. I mean, Fritz was very persuasive, and he was a tough guy. So I think that they were probably afraid of him.
Almost like they had to do it. Like there's no yes, no, maybe. You're in wrestling. You got to wrestle.
100%. And look what happened to the family. I mean, the only one that's left is Kevin, and I guarantee it was from all the pressure that they had. I mean, I'm not. I mean, that's my personal opinion, and who knows if that's truly why all that happened. But I have a feeling that he put so much pressure. It couldn't have been good.
Obviously, David was dead before you came to the territory. But did you hear of like, hey, you're gonna have to fall in David's footsteps? Because a lot of people say he was the best wrestler, the best worker out of them. So were that people were kind of saying, hey, you're gonna have to fill, David's footsteps?
Not me. I think that it was. I think that actually it was probably more pressure on Kerry to actually, and Kevin to actually fall into or to actually follow David's footsteps. The difference was David was what I've heard was he was a true worker, and he actually, he could make it to his towns, and people liked him. Not a lot of people liked Kevin. Kerry was, different. Kerry was pretty simple in the fact that he had a pretty good sense of humor. Most everybody liked him. He was a likable guy. Kevin was a little more. Um, he was always cordial to me and nice to me, but I didn't warm up to him, and a lot of people felt that way, especially if they worked against him. Because you always had to make the Von Erich shine. And most of the heels, I remember, like Buzz Sawyer and Matt Bourne used to always tell me, they don't sell at all. They just go out and kick ass, and that's not the psychology of, the wrestling. The psychology is, you shine, and then the bad guy has to cheat. You know how it goes, and then the very end, if you're going to get beat, it was because the bad guy cheated to beat you because he had to. So good there versus evil, and I think that Kevin he wouldn't sell very much in the beginning, and just the rest of the match was him making comebacks.